And this is going to be unlisted until I list it. It's only going to go to YouTube because if I can stream it at the same time, then it's that much easier to get it going. Yeah. All right, we are good. We are live. So let's start this in 3, 2, 1, action. Welcome, my friends, to another episode of Pathway to Peace. Here, podcast episode number 6. My name is Joshua Marcos Munoz, and I am here with Professor Matt Perlstein and a special guest, Farah Sarosh, who will be helping us understand at length what depression and suicide prevention is all about and how to open up the conversation more and more in this world about a real world threat that is affecting so many people in our modern era and age. So please introduce yourselves. Go ahead. How are you, Farah?
I'm very good, and I hope you are also doing well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us here on this podcast. I
Thank
appreciate
you for
taking.
it.
And I want to, yeah,
And
may I?
Yeah, and thank you
Matt,
for
We were just
inviting me.
talking. Yeah.
go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, thank you for
Okay, we were
inviting me.
just talking about how are we talking to the people that are suicidal or the people who are talking to the people who are suicidal? And the answer is, I think both.
Both.
And to
I
some
would say both.
cases, we're saying, here's what we, each of us, can do with our own depression and our own thoughts and our own need to act, and how to talk to other people about that, other folks around us who are struggling, because more likely, well, there's going to be people around you that are struggling. And if we're opening up the
Definitely.
conversation to mental health, we're talking about our emotions
Yes.
and all
Yes.
that. So
Yes. If you can
go
give
ahead.
us a moment too, Farah, and just give us a little bit of background of what you like to share and what you like to teach here with
First
us.
of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and inviting me on your podcast. You guys are doing a wonderful job, and it is much needed. And to introduce myself, I'll tell that I'm a mental health advocate running an international organization called Nurture Life that is dedicated on mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and emotional intelligence. And we have Mr. Matt Peltestein also with us. He's our partner in our work, and we are working together for the past many years, and it's been a wonderful journey.
Nice.
And today through him only I got to know you, and you guys are doing wonderful job. And to talk about suicide prevention, mental health awareness, I will start with that with the good
Mm.
news. The good news is that suicides
Yeah.
are preventive, and we all think that
Yes.
suicides are not preventive, but they are
Yes.
100% preventive, as we were discussing before starting the podcast. So
Yes.
everybody should know that suicides are preventive and we can save lives. But there are certain things that we have to work on. And first of all, we have to break the stigma around mental health, because we have been working in different countries with different people. What
Yeah.
I have seen that it has been interpreted in the same way globally, the way it is interpreted in my country. Whenever we want to talk about mental health, everybody thinks that we are talking about the craziness, or we are talking about mental asylums, or we are talking about the people who are undergoing treatments, and we are going to talk about mental health illness, but it's not. We are talking about mental health. It's a very simple thing, just like physical thing. It's just that when we connect with nursery, KG, preparatory students, and we try to make them understand what is mental health, that above the neck it is a mental health, and below the neck you have physical health, and we have a connecting
Yes.
thing that is called neck in between that connects the two, and there is no health without mental health, because both
Yes.
are connected, like directly proportional to each other. So for a good physical health, you need to have good mental health, and for good mental health, you need to have a good physical health also. So,
Yes.
but unfortunately, we don't talk about mental health. We are just focused on physical health. We go to the doctors for cold and cough, but we don't
Yeah.
talk about feelings and emotions, right?
Oh, that's right.
And
That's right.
and what is happening? Just we are not talking about what we are feeling inside. Nobody understand us. Nobody is there to help us. So it is very, very
Mhm.
important to communicate things. And to communicate things, we have to open the conversation, and we have to normalize the conversation regarding mental health and suicide preventions. These are all closed door conversation till now. We have seen that we talk about mental health, but we are very, like, we want to hide things. We want to, like, we don't get people to whom we can confide on, and we can, like, we are not very comfortable talking about anybody's, or if you can say that, if I talk about myself,
Yeah.
for example, that I also might not feel comfortable when it's like I have to share something about my mental health. It is just because the stigma around it. So it is very, very necessary to break this stigma, normalize the conversation,
Yeah.
and we have to bring these closed door conversation to open platforms. And the first open platform starts from home. That is your dining table. What I personally feel,
There you
that
go.
these
Right.
discussions should be done on dining table with your children, with your family, with your siblings. And according to the statistics, it is seen, if you have a family of five, three
Yeah.
are diagnosed with some mental health problems. So it is very,
Wow.
very important
Very
to, if
prevalent.
you want to bring change in the world, the change starts from home.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
to
Mm.
prevent suicide, we have to break the stigma around mental health, and we have to understand that there is a difference between mental health well being and mental health illnesses. As I
Uh-huh.
said earlier, also,
Right.
that whenever we open the conversation, our mind goes in that way that we are going to talk about mental health illnesses. No, we can talk about mental health well being. We all have mental health.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
every individual has his
Right.
own mental health, and it
So
has seven dimensions. First of all, we
right.
have to understand how this mental health is formed. So there are
Right.
seven dimensions that are responsible for your mental health: where you are born, how you are brought up, what education you have taken, in
Mm.
which kind of environment you are living, what kind of friends you have. There is
Yeah.
one more dimension of mental health, that is the spiritual dimension, that is called
Interesting.
spiritual health. Like
I
spiritual health
like
is
it.
very responsible
Ooh.
to govern your
I've
mental
never
health.
heard of
The
put that.
the
I've never put those
yes,
two words together. Yeah. Spiritual health.
yes, there
Interesting.
are seven
Uh-huh.
dimensions. That is
Yeah.
physical health, the kind of then it comes your intellectual health. Intellectual health is like that, what you have studied, how you have grown up, what kind of education you have got, in which kind of school you have been, and the influence of your subject on your mind. Then it comes the environmental health, in which kind of environment you are living in. The social health, the kind of people you are moving with, the kind of friends you have. Then you have physical health also responsible in
Yes.
your mental health. So
Yes.
these are seven dimensions that is responsible in making your mental health in whole.
Those are, yeah, well, those are a lot of really good
Good point.
points in terms of breaking that ice with the conversations, right? And so
Yes.
how would you go about making that making that possible within a family unit over dinner? I mean, how would be an effective way, in a way to kind of soften the space to have a safe space to talk about it? How would you suggest going about that?
First of all, it is very important for the parents to understand that, see, it's when we talk about children, it
Mm-hmm.
start with the wedding. When we talk about children, first of all, when two people decide to get married and to start a family, it is
Yeah.
very, very important to understand the concept of marriage. When you are getting into a relationship that there you have a family, then you own a responsibility. It's not that there you get into with the selfish motives. When you have children, the title that you had as a husband and wife, now you have turned up into mother and father. You have to think like mother and father. If you think like mother and father, then only you can take care of your child in a wholesome manner. And if you give him that environment where you think your child can grow holistically, then you have to think only as mother and father. You can't think as husband and wife at that moment. When either you
Interesting.
interact with each other, either you are living your personal life, you have to remember that you are not just husband and wife, you are mother and father also.
Mm-hmm.
Because parents make the environment of the house, and you
Mm-hmm.
both hold the responsibility for the emotional well-being of the children.
Oh,
So it is
especially.
very,
And giving the
it,
example, right? So making that
yes,
conversation between the mother and father, between the parents. So showing as an example, like speaking to each other about how they're
absolutely.
feeling, and giving the example and the opportunity for the child to know that that's safe to talk about. And
Absolutely, absolutely. And
so,
when you respect each other, when you respect each other emotions and
yes,
feelings, then only you
yes,
can be a role model to your children. If you are
yes,
failing in that, then 100% your children are going to suffer mentally,
yes.
emotionally, and physically also sometimes, because
Well,
many
yeah,
of the symptoms get
it,
get
it,
unnoticed, and
it'll,
we think it's only a physical problem, but it is more psychological or an emotional problem that a child is undergoing. So it is very,
Wonderful.
very important for the parents also to upgrade themselves, to educate
Yes.
themselves. And
Yes.
once they find themselves ready to take care of their children holistically, then only they should have children. What I personally feel, and what I have seen from the
Yeah.
examples in the society or to the people I have interacted with, they don't understand all these kind of responsibilities they hold. Sometimes
It's interesting.
they are very
Yeah.
selfish. Sometimes they are very selfish when it comes to their relationship. It's not about their relationship. When you have children, it's all about children now. You have to
Yeah.
sacrifice
Yeah.
your own happiness sometime for their welfare.
It's definitely a sacrifice. And Matt, but what can you share with us and how we deal not just about it, but how we deal with it? And what's your experience with depression and working with people? And how do you soften up the space for allowing that sort of conversation, especially suicide, which is such a heavy topic, right?
So it
It is.
comes with parent education. Like our
Yeah.
organization works on, I and Matt work on 3 A's that we call
Ah,
awareness, acceptance, and accountability. So it is very, very important to
interesting.
educate people about mental health so that the
Accountability.
stigma get broken, because this is the only way we can break the stigma. When education is the only tool to treat with any societal evil, and this is also one of the societal evil that is existing, and every time all the things around mental health are being like brushed under the carpet. We don't
Yeah.
have to brush it under the carpet. We have to face it. We
Mhm.
have to talk about it. Then we have to accept it. Then we have to take the action, and also we have to take the accountability. So it
So what do
comes
you
with
mean by accountability? I mean, that's interesting. So I've heard of the acceptance or awareness, acceptance, and action. And so accountability to oneself or accountability for others. I mean, what's
both ways whenever
okay?
we
Okay.
have to, both ways, because
Okay.
for helping
Yeah.
others in mental health, it is very, very important to work on your mental health first, because
Yeah.
unless and until you are not mentally healthy, you
Yeah.
will not be able to take care of other person.
Oh,
like
totally.
uh, it's like
Totally.
very it's a I connected with a, like, whenever I explain this, I take example from aircraft. When you
Yeah.
board the aircraft, the crew members come and they say that they start telling you about your to belt yourself, and then they
Totally.
say that when the pressure will increase, the oxygen mask will fall. The most important thing is, there we have to take notice of. He says that when the oxygen mask will fall, you have to put it on yourself before putting it on your co-passenger. The
Such a good point.
same way, whenever you have to deal with these mental issues, or you have to talk about it, introspect, treat
Yes.
yourself first to help others. If you are
Yeah.
able to treat yourself, then only you will be able to understand the other people emotions and other people struggles.
We are very big on actionable steps and tools, right? As I like to call them, power tools for the mind. That they're like not just regular tools, but they're like power tools. So they're battery operated. They're efficient. They're really getting at the root of the subconscious, the seat of our emotions, our
Absolutely.
imagination, right, and our emotional body, right. And so maybe Matt can share with us a little bit about how we deal with it and what kind of experiences
Well,
he
I
might have.
think going on with Farah's suggestion about
Yeah.
bringing it up at the dining room table, um,
Uh-huh.
it is the parents, and it's true. We'd set a culture for whether emotions are acceptable in our household or not. There's a lot of households where don't you dare talk about what you're angry about ever,
Mm,
ever.
mm,
People get beaten for that and that sort of thing, and so setting the culture to making it emotionally safe for people, um, starting with ourselves, giving ourselves permission to that we're okay with our emotions, and
feel it
then
to heal it.
also, like she was saying, with each other, with the couple, with the kids, to say, "So, what's up with you guys?" And then shut up and listen to the answer. It's a lot of people
Yeah.
don't have that simple tool of just what's up, what are you going through, kind of what you're asking, not just how's school, but how
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
how are you doing, how are you feeling,
And
and
to
then
bring up
let them
some
answer and not criticize the answer or put it down or any of that. Go ahead.
And what I feel, Matt, it can only be done that if we have a ritual of taking one meal together in a day, make it a
Yeah.
compulsory thing in your house to have a one meal together in a day with your family. Whether
Yeah.
it is a breakfast, if breakfast is not possible, then dinner can be made possible. So it is very, very
Right.
important for the emotional
Communication,
well-being of a family
safe
to
space.
have
Yeah.
a one meal together, because it is the time where you can bond well with your children, with your spouses, and as a family you can grow together. So it
Yeah.
is very, very important to have one meal in a day together. And there you can break the stigma. You can speak about any taboo topics. And there you can, as Matt said, instead of schooling, you can have open conversation. You can treat your children as an
Mm.
individuals, not your children only.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you can listen to them, give them chance to speak,
Yeah.
and without any judgment and without any apprehensions and without any limitation, you can convey
Yeah.
this to your children that this is the time when you can talk about anything on the table. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
as a parent can take a step to talk about mental health with them, so that we can, at an early age only, we can sensitize the topic, and by the time they grow up we can gradually educate them about mental health. So it's very,
Yeah.
very important to be age conscious also, because sometimes it happens children are not ready to understand, ready in the sense, or their intellect is not ready to understand few things. So it is very, very important to be age
Yeah.
sensitive also, that
And
at
show
what
the
age, what,
example, right? Through
yeah, at
through your own actions, through teaching them
actions
what's available.
and absolutely. And for that, parents have to work on them. They have to get educated themselves on this
Yes.
topic, and they
Yes.
should learn how to start the conversation with their children.
Yeah.
And this way, this is the first step to prevent suicide. This is the
Yes.
first step to
Mm.
prevent suicide, because what
Yeah.
happens when things get unnoticed, when we are not talking about, we are not knowing what your child is facing or what your partner is facing. Because what
Great.
happens if a
Yeah.
person is suicidal, or he is going into a depressive state,
Yeah.
they start giving you some symptoms. And just
Yeah.
because we are not
And we have to be
educated
observant
about,
of those symptoms. Be
yes,
aware of those in ourselves, and then so be able to feel that in others. And let me just share a little
absolutely
bit here. There's some statistics I'd like to share, just showing the gravity of the problem here. Globally, according to Wikipedia here, 30 there, since 20 to 2000 to 2021, suicide rates have risen to 35% worldwide, right?
correct.
So, and even within the US, within the same amount of years, about 20 years, the last 20 years or so, 30% has risen in as a suicide rate. So it's like even within here, I'm reading as well, between the ages of 10 to 34, the second leading cause of death for individuals is suicide. So, I mean, this is a huge problem. And we talk,
Yes, it is.
we talk about cancer, we talk about so many other diseases that big organizations are pushing to try to defeat, right? And how there's all these illnesses, and the pandemic that we just had a little while ago, and all of this and all of that. But what's the real issue going on here? If the second leading cause is not smoking, it's not accidents, it's not this disease, heart disease, that disease, or whatever, it's people taking their own lives. Why? Because they are not feeling what they need to feel, or having the space in order for them to allow to express that, right? Or to sublimate
Absolutely.
that. And
Absolutely. It is
and
very,
it's
very
increasing
important
more
to,
and more within adolescence as well.
just because yeah, because there is lack of emotionally safe environments.
Yeah.
They find nobody to whom they can talk to. And what happens sometimes, if they try to talk to somebody
Yeah.
but they don't get that feeling of being heard, it is very,
Yeah.
very important for
Yeah.
somebody to get that feeling of
Yeah.
being heard.
Yes. Yes. And so,
Because
how in your organization, Farah, how are you helping parents, especially teaching their children, equip them with the tools that they need? What are you exactly giving them to, like, doing a step-to-step process of being able to help themselves, right, first, and then be able to help others? What exactly do you teach, and some kind of down to earth practical practice that one parents can start implementing today?
first of all, when we talk about parent education program, the first step that we start with is to understand what is the concept of marriage. It is very, very important to for them to understand
Interesting.
what is the
Education
concept
starts
of
with the
marriage.
parents, for
Once
sure.
they understand the concept of marriage, then they will be only
Interesting.
able to work on their children. If their marriage is not working, if they are not in a good relationship, if they are not they are facing certain challenges in their relationship, then obviously they won't be able to help their children. So first they have to work on that. What is the concept of marriage? They have to work on that. They have to work on their own personalities. Then we have the accountability thing comes. Then we make them realize that they hold a responsibility towards themselves and towards their children. So it is very, very important to understand that every individual in the family, especially the parents, are responsible for the emotional well-being of the whole family,
Yeah.
especially of their children.
Yeah.
So we educate them about this. Then we tell them how
Okay.
to convey
Good.
about mental health to their children. So there are basic things that first we try to make them understand, to understand the topic mental health well-being. We
Yeah.
teach about mental health well-being. As I mentioned
Okay.
earlier, we try to make them understand how the mental health is formed,
Yeah.
and also in maternity in phase also they have to take care of their mental health because it directly connect the fetus. So it is very, very important to start from there. Once they conceive, they have to be very vigilant about everything
Okay.
about their mental health,
Interesting.
and also be aware of the fact that how are they feeling, because it is
Yeah.
directly going to impact their child. So there comes the responsibility of father. How do they have to handle their wife in
Okay.
that period? And then
Uh-huh.
it comes to the female that if she is not feeling mentally healthy, she
Right.
has to convey that thing to the doctor so that she can get the good help from this, and we can
Yeah.
save the children from the womb. Because what happens, the it is very, very important, like you have to nurture the mental health of a child from womb to the world.
Okay. So how, so yeah, speaking of ages too, is like some statistics I'm reading here as well that for whatever reason, men who white men ages 85 and older have the highest rates of suicide in any demographic in the US.
Good.
And so we're not just talking about children or the youth in here, which is a big problem. Ages, 10 to and up is a huge problem. Second leading death, leading propensity to die, right? But that white men ages 85 and older are the highest in all. So how do we also speak to this with older people, with the mature crowd, the mature population of our society, and also get them involved? Because I mean, we also don't want to just be focusing on one extreme or the other. So yeah, I mean, what do you think of that?
You've
It's
got to
not
take
just
into
that.
account at that
Yeah.
Yeah, go
that
ahead,
age
Matt.
group, there's got to be some of that's not mental health issues. Some of that is
Uh-huh.
physical health issues.
Yeah.
If you're
That's
over
true.
85
There's
and you're in
physical pain.
serious pain.
Yeah.
My mom was hurting so bad in the
Yeah.
last year before she went. She
Yeah.
wanted to go. We wanted to see her go. It was downhill from there, and we
Right.
wish we could have helped her. Actually, that
Was
sounds
it?
rude, but it's true, and it
Uh-huh.
was a
Uh-huh.
weird
Well,
feeling.
I agree. There's no, I don't see any black or white in terms of what's it called? Euthanasia, right? Medical
Yeah,
assisted euthanasia. And that has to be
yeah.
on a case-to-case situation where is it ethical? Is it more ethical to help somebody leave their body in a peaceful manner
Right.
than to have them strive for survival when it's not necessary because it's only leading to more suffering, right? So that's an interesting point as well. And so to look into that further would be quite interesting. But have you guys felt any personal experiences with dealing with someone who is suicidal or has maybe even gone all the way and unfortunately been successful? How has your family dealt with it? Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Share us a little bit.
No, I'm just raising my hand. Farah, do you want to talk to that?
Oh,
Have you? Yeah,
I
I'm
see.
sure you have
Uh,
briefly.
Yeah, personal story. Somebody.
Alhamdulillah, there is no case in my family
Okay.
that I can mention, or they
Okay.
had gone through
Okay.
this way. But there are certain people whom I know that they have seen this unfortunate thing happening in their house. But
Yeah.
before I come to that, I want to
Yeah.
say about something about men's mental health, because it is another a different topic that we have to talk about, because it is very,
Yeah.
very important to talk separately about men's mental health. As you
Yeah.
mentioned that there is a statistic that
Yeah.
shows that the number of suicide uh, that were successful is among men more than women. Yes, it is true. When we see a global statistics also, what happens that the men's suicidal rate is greater than women's suicidal rate. What happens that in our culture, or the kind of psychology a man has, they are less expressive. And
Yeah.
what happens
Right.
by naturally females are more expressive. They
Right.
know how to vent out, they know how to express. And what happens, the number of suicide attempted is more in women than in men.
Yeah.
Men has a temperament to do it when they decided, and they do it to the fullest, right?
Yeah. More
And what
successful.
happens,
They have a higher
yeah, yeah,
higher
yeah,
statistic rates
yes,
of
yes,
success
and yes.
when attempting. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and when what happens with the female psychology, they naturally have that thing that where they can they are usually like expressive. They are more expressive in their emotions. They are more
Yeah.
expressive, in every way. They find the way to vent out. But what happens with the men? They are less expressive. And secondly, they are not taught about their emotions. They don't even know how to recognize their emotions. Sometimes we see that females express themselves more they're more accurate in expressing their naming their feelings, expressing their
Yeah.
feelings. But
Yeah.
here the man fails just because we live in a world where a man is being seen as a powerful person,
Right.
and everybody has lot of expectation, like
Yeah.
whether he's a husband, where he's a brother, where he's a
Right.
father.
So there's
There
more
are lot of
suppression.
expect
There's
yeah
definitely more suppression and
lot
repression.
of
Right.
pressure. Yes,
They don't
yes,
even
there are
know that
pressure.
what they're feeling, and
And
it's
and
being
there
repressed.
the ego that I'm not going to ask help from
Yeah.
somebody because they think it's a sign of weakness.
That's
Because
right.
if you see that that the male are not even allowed to cry.
Yeah.
When they want to cry, they hide themselves.
Yeah.
We have to normalize these things also, because it is
Yeah.
very very important to normalize that yes, men are human beings and they can cry and they are allowed to
Yes.
cry. Why
Right.
it is
Right.
only limited to till females? Why it
Yeah.
is so acceptable that females cry? No,
Yeah.
it should also be acceptable that yes, males cry. But what happens when if we see some emotional person, of if we have a friend also in our group, and if he cries, everybody makes fun of him,
Right.
as if that he has shown some sign of weakness. What as a mental health advocate, what I feel, that crying is not a sign of weakness. It is a courage. If you have the courage to break down in front of people, it's a courage. It's
Yeah.
not that you have to hide yourself to
Right.
break your to get like to this level. If you reach, you have to hide yourself. No, and you are not supposed to hide yourself. You are human
Okay.
beings. It is very natural. So this acceptance is not in the in the world, I would say, because it is happening everywhere, whether it is my country, your
Right.
country, because it's
Right.
not the cultural differences, it is the psychological differences. That is the thing we should talk about. The cultural things come
Mm.
second. The first thing is,
Right.
as a man and a woman, we both are different psychological person. We both have different psychologies. So it is
So
very
so
very important.
when we're talking with someone who has these tendencies and they're thinking about doing something to themselves to end their life, what kind of what can we give them, tell them to help uh, change their mind, basically? What kind of tools? I mean, I know we use these one liners like feel it to heal it, kind of situation, and moving into emotional expression and owning one's emotions. But when somebody feels like there's just no other avenue, and that like there's nothing else left but this recourse of ending one's life, how can we speak to this person? So let's say we're speaking about this right now and there's somebody listening who's
So
wanting
first of all,
to take some
yeah.
actions that will help them gain access to someone or something that will help. How do you speak to them? What do we tell them?
First of all, it is very important to raise awareness about depression and suicide. All right. Then, second step is to foster understanding and empathy. And third is that what you are talking about, that explore
Mhm.
strategies for prevention and support. So it is
Okay.
very important to understand what does depression means and what are the signs of depression, right?
uh,
So everybody has to do a three
so for
weeks.
somebody experiencing depression, it's like they need to know what these symptoms are, and then so being aware of these things is one step, right? Awareness of
Yes,
what's going on. So what do we
absolutely.
tell
Yep.
them then?
First of all, we have to understand that if we are going under any mental health struggle, we don't have to self-diagnose it. It is very
Okay.
important. It is very, very important to do a 3 week self-check. That if you have a persistent sadness, if you have
Yeah.
loss of interest, and
Yeah.
difficulty in functioning, and
Yeah.
difficulty in sleeping, you have low energy fatigue, difficulty in concentration,
Yeah.
feelings of worthlessness and guilt, and also some physical symptoms like loss of appetite, or something that you are eating extra, you have some different eating
Okay.
habits where you
Yeah.
are overeating things,
Right.
right? So this is the self check you have to do.
Yeah.
Then you have to seek help, and seeking help is a sign of courage. You don't have to think that it is a sign of weakness.
Yes.
It is
Oh,
a
that's a
sign of
big one.
courage.
Big one.
It is a
Yes.
sign of courage. And when your doctor says that it is a depression, then only you think that you are in a state that is a disease called depression. Unless and until you don't get it written by a doctor, you don't consider to yourself in a disease
Right.
called depression, because
We can talk
what is
about that next
happening.
too. Diagnostics and words and labels, and how effective they are, and how, to what extreme do we need to push that, and to what point are they also not helpful? Because then if you're labeled with a diagnostic of depression, of anxiety, or bipolar, or PTSD, all these things, then they becomes an identity that is difficult to break out of, right?
Yes.
It's a frame. Because so then how do we help people then change, transform, and then allow it to be a non-issue in their life? How do we help them to become more emotionally intelligent, right? And to move out of these frameworks that perhaps were helpful at some point, but then no longer helpful at another point.
I agree. This labelization creates a discrimination in the society.
Mm,
Sometimes, what happens if you are diagnosed with some mental illness,
yeah.
you are left in a isolation. People don't want to talk to you because they don't consider you normal. So you have to understand,
Norm.
whenever a
Yeah.
person is diagnosed
Yeah.
with some mental disorder, you have to understand that it's his intelligence level remains intact. His
Yeah.
disease is that these intelligence and disease are two different things. We should not club the both. When a person is in some mental disorder, his intelligence is not impacted by that thing. It depends upon the gravity of that disease, or it depends upon the kind of treatment he is getting. So whenever the mental health problems are treated, you don't need only a psychiatrist, you also need somebody to counsel, that's called psychologist. So these two team together to heal a person.
I
It is
totally
very,
agree. I very much agree, because psychiatry can be pushed to such a degree then that they're drugged sometimes out of their personality, and then in order just to keep them stable, right? Because maybe they have gone through manic episodes. And something very interesting I just learned too is that for uh, bipolar personality disorders, that sometimes, frequently, especially women, like 75% of them are diagnosed more so than men, that it's in a matter of 3 years, like 30% get better. In a matter of 10 years, like 70% of them get better. So it's like, we don't have to make it a stigma where they have this for the rest of their life, but it's something that can be a phase, right, in life, some episodes, but not to make it such a strong identifier that then there's nothing to help them break out. How do they grow from there, right? So it's
yes, and it is very you can live a normal life with a disease. It is possible to live a normal life with a disease. It's just the discrimination in the society,
yeah,
that
yeah,
that is the thing that affects that person.
yeah,
Otherwise, if you are struggling with the disease, and first of all, everything is treatable. Everything is treatable. Now
yes,
we have got
yes,
those medicines. We have got those advanced treatments where things can
yes.
be treated. So there is nothing that can't be treated. So it is very, very important to know, if you need a
That's a
medication,
very
it
good
is
point.
very, if you need a medication, and if you are on the medication, it is very normal. Just like you take
Yes.
medicines for cold and cough, it is very important to take
Oh, that's
medicines
great.
for your mental health
Right.
diseases also.
Yeah, because
We
there's
have to
there's a there's a
normalize this
lot of
thing also.
there's a lot of mental disorders that have to do mainly with, like, the use of serotonin uptake inhibitors, right, for depression and whatnot. And the levels of serotonin in some people are just naturally different for whatever reason, genetic differences, environmental differences, or whatever. And so looking at psychological health and well-being from a neurological, biological point of view is also interesting, in the sense that it's something that can be treated, right, with certain drugs for a certain period, and then also trained to be able to kind of live with the situation that naturally their body, their genetics, their whatever has been predisposed with, but it doesn't have to be necessarily something that they're stuck with for the rest of their life, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is just that you know that you have reached to the correct person. You
Yeah,
have the person to whom you have approached to, he is the right person to treat you. It is very,
yeah,
very important to understand that. Then plus you have to understand sometimes few things can be treated without medication also.
yeah,
With
yeah.
few
That's
therapies
true.
we can treat somebody's mental health. So it is very important. So I always advise whenever you feel that you are undergoing some mental health challenges, first reach out to psychologists. Let him
Yeah,
decide whether you need a psychiatrist or not. Because what
yeah,
happens in our culture, whenever we face some certain mental health issues, we directly approach to psychiatrist.
yeah,
So it is very important that if you have a psychologist around, connect with him, talk to him, and let
yeah,
him diagnose whether you need some medication or not. So there are
yeah, yeah.
many things that can be cured without medication also, because
Yes,
few
truly.
many of the mental health problems can be treated by talk therapy. It is just
Yes,
we live in a judgmental environment and there is
yes,
nobody to
yes,
whom we can talk to, and where if
yes.
we reach out to a
To
person who
be
is
having a
trained enough to
holistic approach to it, right? That from every
yes,
angle, every tool, not just throwing
absolutely,
throwing drugs at every kind of problem. So
absolutely.
if somebody were to visit your website, and I'll have be sharing that in the description here as well. What kind of resources do you have that people can engage with, and then also what other kind of presentations are you going to be giving in the future, or where are you going to be, and how do you see people and society culture making this more accessible, and how is your organization, your website helping to do that?
So we have different initiative. This is an ongoing process. It is
Okay.
not that we do a target based job, or we do a go. We have certain
Yeah.
goals that we have to beat them. It is an ongoing process. What we try our best with our initiative is that if we are able to bring one fundamental change in somebody's life, it is our
Yeah.
success. So
Yes.
we have internship programs for
Okay.
youth
Nice.
where
Nice.
where they educate youth about their mental health, and then
Yeah.
they prepare them as EQ ambassadors, because EQ is very, very important, because thoughts and feelings are connected profoundly. So Matt and I lead the troop, and where we interact with young minds, and we have a proper internship program regarding emotional intelligence, mental health awareness, and suicide prevention. Then we have
Yes.
parent education program separately. Then we are connected with corporates where we prepare
Okay.
EAP for the companies,
Okay.
because
Great.
in companies they talk about physical health, but they don't talk about mental health. So it is
Very
very,
few.
very
Very few.
important.
Yeah. We need to
Yeah,
change
it is
that
very,
culture.
very important for them to
Yeah.
prepare separate employee assistant programs for
Yeah.
mental health.
Yeah.
So we do corporate events also. Then we have book publishing where I and Matt
Okay.
work together. We are trying our best
Awesome.
to bring innovative books around the
Okay.
topic that
Yes.
is suitable for all ages, because education is the only tool that can bring change. So
Yeah.
we have those
Yeah.
books,
Education's a big
book
one.
publishing, yeah. And then we have counseling sessions with the
Oh.
psychologists. There we
Wow.
offer free counseling sessions
For
with the
psychologists.
psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so
Cool.
you can
Very cool.
connect with them directly through our website. We are there,
Nice.
where we are there to help you. And then we do public events, especially sports event, because we connect mental health and physical health together. So we have been doing
Ah,
walkathons. We do walkathons
great.
at
Yeah.
different places. Recently, we collaborated in Africa also, where we did
Wow.
event for the corporates. There we tried to make the companies try. We encourage companies to make an environment that is emotionally safe for their employees.
Yeah.
So this way we are helping people, and again I will say that it is an ongoing process. So we keep
Good.
on bringing new innovative ideas to
Great.
break the stigma, because it is very important to connect with the layman. If you
Yeah.
connect
Let
if
me
you
ask
if,
you. Let me ask you. What's first of all, what's group of people do you work with initially? Because I'm looking at the website here, nurturelife.org.in. So are you in India? Is it primarily working within the context of India, or you just mentioned Africa. I'm just curious as to
No, we
what.
are working globally. We are
Awesome.
working pan
Okay.
India and globally. We have our
Gotcha.
representative at different places, but the
Okay.
head office is in India. So
Gotcha.
all the action plans are made in India, but
Okay.
according to the cultural, because your mental health is influenced by your cultural environment also. So
Yes.
according to
Totally.
their cultural requirement, we make tailored programs. It's not that we do
Okay.
general
Okay.
mental health awareness. It's all tailored programs according to the continents, countries,
Okay.
and cities, and
Okay.
the group of people we are addressing to.
Okay.
So, and then we are trying to inculcate all our curriculum around mental health in schools, and we are trying to sensitize this topic from the age of 3. The child starts going to
Wow.
pre-nursery, you
Okay.
say, or the preparatory
Yes.
level.
Yes.
So we have approach to schools there and here also, and in other
Yes.
places also,
Okay.
and we are trying to introduce our books over there, and
Okay.
then we are also into mental health filmmaking. That collaboration we have with
Very
the
cool.
very
Yes.
renowned Bollywood, that
Yeah.
is world famous sector of India. So
Right.
there we make mental health films. We go to institutions. We show them. We break the stigma with that, because visual medium is a very powerful medium if you want to connect with young
Totally.
minds.
So especially this
So
in Asia. Mhm.
absolutely. So we do film screening in educational institutions. That is
Okay.
followed up by a panel discussion. A panel discussion is with the anybody from the school, and
Yes.
then we have experts from mental health, and we have
Right.
filmmaker also along with him, so that he can connect the two and
That's
make people understand how visual
excellent.
medium works. And we are
That's
also into mental health club establishments. We are
nice. Okay. Regional
so
clubs for the spaces
yes.
that want to start something and start a communicate. Okay. Start a
Yes.
club,
So
a community. Mhm.
yeah, so we started this activity with the schools.
Okay.
So schools took it very, they were very welcoming in inviting us in establishing. What we do, we try to build a team from their school, and we operate it from outside. So
Awesome.
so
Those are
that there, and we also,
great
it is not
resources.
just that, yeah, because it is very, very important for, like, youth is the hope of all mankind, as it is said.
Yeah.
So it is very
Oh yeah.
important to understand that two people, two communities are responsible for the society,
Yeah.
for any change in the society. One community is called parents, and the other community is called teachers. So it is very, very
Okay.
important to
That's a
work
good
on
way
the
of framing
teachers
it.
also.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, we're gonna start wrapping up this podcast, and let's see what we can. What's the takeaway here? What's the internal kind of um, suggestions we can give to somebody who's dealing with this depression, and giving themselves the option, because um, this option was less and less frequently available, let's say, or even pursued with past generations, right? Like 30 years, 40 years ago, within a different generation, we didn't have 30%, 36% of the population, you know, potentially going about using suicide as an option, right? So how can we reverse this? And we've talked about this, right? By education, starting with the parents, with the children, having an open space, having the ability to share what's going on. So what's as in closing statements, how can we give our audience a takeaway as to what are the signs when we're seeing for friends and family that they're looking like something is not right and something potentially, life ending could happen. What are some takeaways that we can give our audience here today?
So I will divide it into two. First, for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
that we have to understand that life is full of challenges.
Yeah.
It's not a cakewalk. So
Okay.
challenges will come, and this is how we evolve.
Yeah.
But what we live in a fantasy world, and we are not going to take any challenge, because what is happening with the new generation, as you said, that as the intellect
Yeah.
improve, that people are like their behavior has changed and everything has changed, and now the things are like nobody wants to, like, they are more into giving up. People were more
Yeah.
resistant before. So it
Yeah.
is very, very important to work on the resistance level, because
Yes.
if we don't have the that ability to bounce back from the adversity, we are not going
Yeah.
to face any challenges in this life. And
Yeah.
we have to understand through challenges only we evolve. So
Awesome.
I would like to add one example also over here, that if you go to an ICU, you see a machine near your bed. There
Yeah.
is a graph going on, right? When
Yeah.
you are alive, you see up, down, up, down, up, down. But when you are dead, it becomes straight line. So this is the same way the life moves. When you are alive, the ups and downs are part of life. You have to understand
Interesting.
that. And
Nice.
it just
Nice
and when it comes
allegory.
a straight line, that it means you are dead,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
So
another thing
that's
that,
it. We deal with a lot the life's ups and downs because that means we're alive, right? Okay.
yes,
Awesome.
and
Awesome.
and second thing, what I want
Uh-huh.
to share here is that
Yes.
it is very important to help someone who is at risk. So it
Yes.
is like we should know how to recognize the warning signs that
Yeah.
I mentioned before. If you see any changes in their behavior or mood,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
one of the symptom. And
Yes.
again, you have to follow that for continuously for the 3 weeks. Instead of
Yes.
giving him advices, if somebody wants to talk to you, listen to him, because there we get that signal. So it
Listening.
is very very
Listening.
important. So you have to like increase your listening capacity. It is very very important. So if you listen to them, you will get all the system. And the 3 week
Yes.
stages, if you find changes in their behavior, moods, or
Yes.
something. And secondly, the sleeping pattern, the eating patterns.
Yes.
So you have to keep
Okay.
a watch on it. If you
Aware of
find
that. Uh-huh.
something,
Those
yeah.
are tall tale signs. Okay. Okay.
Yes, these are the basic signals that you can get from somebody who is undergoing mental health challenges. And one thing
Yes.
that is very very common among the people who are going under mental health challenges,
Yes.
they start isolating themselves. So don't leave
Mm.
them alone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
don't ever leave them alone, because they
Yes.
are not going these when you see that the somebody is trying to isolate themselves from their
Yes.
family, they are
Yeah.
trying to be in their room every
Yeah.
time. Never
Yeah.
leave them alone. Sleep
Yeah.
with them, be with them around, and try
Yes.
to convince them to take to the doctor. If the person is not ready, reach out to the doctor. They will tell you how to handle that person. So
Good.
instead
Good.
of using own mind, it is, or instead
Those are
of
great,
googling
great
it,
suggestions.
instead of googling it, it is also very becoming very scary. People just Google it and follow it. You don't need to Google and follow it. You have to reach out to a professional to handle
Yeah.
that person also. So
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
it happens that person is not ready to reach out to a doctor. You
Not
have
quite
to
yet.
take the
Yeah.
step. You have to take the step. You have to go and tell all the symptoms that you have seen in that person, and
Right.
that professional will guide you how to handle that person. So it is very very important to convey things. So communicate,
Okay.
communicate, communicate. Every time communicate. Either you are going mental health challenges, communicate. If you see somebody going through mental health challenges, reach out to a doctor and
Reach out to.
communicate. So
Okay.
this is how we can get help, and we can help the other person also.
Okay. Any closing thoughts, Matt? What can you help suggest with someone who sees a family member or a friend or somebody in their workplace who's just isolating themselves, showing symptoms of depression and closing off? What do you have to share?
I think that I think the key, like I said, is communication,
Yeah.
making emotions matter, making
Mm-hmm.
them normal
Mm-hmm.
conversation. What are you feeling? And shut up and listen to the answer. It
Mm-hmm.
takes a little bit more time sometimes to let people talk, but just caring, letting people feel heard, that you actually do care what they're thinking and feeling, and letting them express it. They become aware of it. They can express it in ways that gets it out of their body, and so that they're not so depressed. It's not such a
Yeah.
heavy thing that they're carrying around by themselves. They
Yeah.
have somebody to share it with. So showing that you care and listening, showing that you care by listening is one of the most awesome things you can possibly do for someone, in my opinion. So,
Okay.
and making the emotions matter. And like Farah said, you kind of have to make them more okay with you first, you and you, giving yourself permission to feel, and then you
Yeah.
allow other people permission to feel. They love it and they need it. And people need to talk about it, about their emotions, says
Okay.
I.
Excellent.
And all
Okay.
And if you have time, then I want to share few things about children also. If
Yeah.
some parents are watching, so there are few
Yes.
signals that children also give, and we need to
Mm.
understand. If you think that a child is not behaving properly and he's continuously following you to tell you something, he needs your time, then this is a signal something that a child is undergoing. So you have to pay attention
Mm.
to that.
Mhm.
So
Great.
if you think that your child is more into crying, or like he's not showing any interest towards anything, so it is
Yeah.
very, very important to take it as a signal that something is not right with your children. And all the parents out there, I would like to request them that put some placards in their room, like it's okay not to be okay, like I am there to help you whenever you
That's a
feel
good one.
unsafe. Run,
It's
run,
okay
run
not to be
to
okay.
your
Yeah.
mama, run to your papa. So
Yeah.
that they have that conditioning in their mind that if they are
Permission.
into trouble, so it will work as a conditioning. If we started from like 3+ year and we start putting these signboards in the houses also, so
Yeah.
it comes like that a child is conditioned with these instructions that if he or she is in some trouble or something, they have trusted individuals at their house and they can run to them, because that is the only place they are safe with. So it is very, very important for parents also to convey that they are their safe places and they are there to help them whether they are right or wrong. So use these kind of placards in your houses, in children rooms, wherever you find, like in bathrooms also. Like I
Yeah.
suggest that
That's good.
in
Good idea.
bathrooms also there these, everywhere there should be one placard that conveys that if a child feels himself in trouble, there is somebody at home whom he can rush to, who can feel like
Help.
who can be there and who can
Yeah.
seek help from.
Yes.
So these
Those
are
are
the
all
few.
very good suggestions. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to wrap it
I
up
really feel
now.
it though, Tim.
So yeah, if there's anything concluding thoughts, please visit nurturelife.org.in in order to get more tips, more information and resources for those of you, of your family members, those who you love and those who you care for, and for yourself to remember to reach out, and that feeling bad is, you're not alone. You can feel it, you can express it, you can share it, and that it's basically important for you to know that the people out there really do care, and you just have to reach out and make yourself accessible to these resources.
Absolutely. We are humans. We all have emotions, and it's just
Yes.
that we need to respect each other's emotions.
Yes. Yes.
And we
Wonderful.
can let them go sometimes. Once we do become aware of them and accept them that they're happening, we can let them go
Right.
Absolutely.
easier.
Let them flow. Yes. You
Let
don't
them
have to
go.
hold them. You don't have to bottle up.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Farah, for your time here and sharing us. Thank you so much for your service, and very valuable in these times with increasing depression and anxiety on the rise. And so this is a pathway to peace. We are gonna end it here, and as like we like to end it, peace, peace in and peace out.
Inner peace leads to world peace, as the Dalai Lama said.
Awesome. Yes.
There you go.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Until next
Thank
time.
you so much.
Right.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful experience.
Likewise.